You are listening to The Real Deal, and I'm your host, Dr.Leigh Davis. Today on the show, we have an author who's written a book about pirates, and I know for those of you who listen on a regular basis, we had a show previously where Nightline was doing a segment on the pirate fascination, the Pirate of the Caribbean movies, and pirates in general, and just how they're such a myth and a legend in all of our fiction and movies and all types of prose and poetry. And today we are going to be speaking to David McAvoy, who's actually written a book that you can find out more about by going to a website that he's actually set up for the book, and I believe it's also available online. He's going to be able to tell you more about that. Again, his name is David McAvoy, and it's actually David McAvoy II, and his book website is piratenovel.com. piratenovel.com. There'll be a link to it on our site. And let me just give you a brief basis of the book. Tired of zombies and vampires? Imagine a world where Harry Potter meets Pirates of the Caribbean. Get Swords and Sails, Legacy of the Red Lion, the new book by author David McAvoy II. Sea monsters, daring rescues, and spectacular sword fights. If you love pirates and love adventure, then you will love Swords and Sails, Legacy of the Red Lion. And there's also a Facebook page. The Facebook page is facebook.com/Swords and Sails. And again, the novel, you can find it at piratenovel.com. www.piratenovel.com, and it's via Mackenzie Publishing House. Or actually, I think it's Mikazuki Publishing House. In fact, I'll let the author tell you himself. Let's get David McAvoy II on the line. Again, you're listening to The Real Deal, and we are going to be talking to the author, David McAvoy II, about his new book. Hello, Mr. McAvoy. Are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you, Dr. Leigh Davis?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing quite all right. And it's Mikazuki Publishing House. I think my publisher would really want me to get that out there.
Okay, Mikazuki Publishing House. I apologize for that. Now,
no worries.
Adventure novel, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, adventure, young adult, maybe a little fantasy in there. So.
Okay, and is there an age range that it's geared to, or is it general audience?
Well, I think it's general audience. I think there's something in it that everyone could enjoy. But in general, it's probably best for young adults, junior high, high school age kids. There's nothing in it that would be bad for little kids, but I'm not sure that the vocabulary is right for them. But it's something I think everyone could enjoy overall.
Okay, and Swords and Sails, it's available in both the paperback edition and a Kindle edition. I'm looking at it. It's on Amazon. You can search for it on Amazon.com. Swords and Sails, the Legacy Lion. It's the Legacy of the Red Lion. It's on Amazon.com. We're going to put a link on our website. I just want to read the general book description that Amazon has listed. Edward Reynolds hates his life in the seaside village of Danscombe and spends his time trying to figure out a way to see the world on the high seas. Then one night, Edward finds himself taken aboard the ship, the pirate ship of the Cerberus, captained by the feared Captain Wolfgang. Edward soon finds himself sailing the world, searching for a mysterious treasure his father left behind, a treasure Edward is determined to find if he can survive long enough to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So Edward is the main character in this story. And I'm wondering what made you decide to write about pirates?
You know, it was one of those ideas that just kind of comes into your head about 3 a.m. and won't leave you alone. So I don't really know. The story just popped in there. It came last year, which was admittedly a really difficult year for me. I mean, I was in law school. It wasn't working out. If I'm not mistaken, you are a lawyer or a law professor, so I'm sure you understand how difficult that could be sometimes. And at the time, I was going through that. My grandmother was sick. She eventually died, and I needed to cope. So I started turning this story into something that, just really took on a life of its own. And, I actually had one of my professors, he used to get on to me, there's a certain style of legal writing you have to do, and I could never seem to get the hang of it. And he actually said, look, you write like you're telling a story. That's how you write. So, if I wasn't able to write like a lawyer, I guess I could write a novel down, and so I did. But
and I'm wondering if I was that professor, because that's something I'm a scholar about too, legal writing, analytical writing. You're right. Mm-hmm. You have to write in active form, not passive form.
Right, exactly. And I could just never get the hang of that, I guess. But, I'm a believer that things tend to work out for a reason. So, I'm quite happy that, things are turning out this way for me.
We are speaking to David McAvoy II. He's the author of Swords and Sails, The Legacy of the Red Lion. This is The Real Deal. I'm Dr.Leigh Davis. This is a book about pirates, and David McAvoy, he holds a bachelor's degree in political science from ASU. And you were a law student at William Bowen Law School. Are you still a law student, or you're not anymore?
Oh, no. I'm back in my hometown. Well, it's not my hometown. It's my adopted hometown of Jonesboro. And I live here with my partner, and the only thing I'm focused on right now is just turning out another Swords and Sails story for the series.
Well, I always say there are enough lawyers in the world, so I think we could use another pirate novelist more than we could another attorney. So I think it all worked out for the best.
So thank you.
Now, one thing I did notice is this book is quite lengthy. I mean, it's 316 pages. It is a real novel, because I know a lot of people publish books these days, especially with ebooks, where they're just not really even that long. They're more like pamphlets, but they call them books. But this is a pretty meaty book. It's 316 pages. Now, are you planning a sequel to this, or a prequel, or some kind of series?
Well, the plan is for it to be a series, and I'm actually working on the sequel right now. It's going to pretty much pick up where the last story left off, and then, there will be other books in the series after that. I'm hoping to go maybe 6 or 7 books in this series. So, and each is going to be, they're all going to be tied together, all involve the same characters. But instead of one long continuing series like, say, with the Harry Potter series, or one long continuing story arc, each story is going to be its own unique adventure, just building off the last story. So I hope that'll give it a little bit of freshness and continue this idea that I have of making sure that there's something in the series for everyone to enjoy.
Now, will Edward Reynolds be the main character in all the books?
Yes, he is the central protagonist of the story. Edward is, I like to think Edward is a guy that's just impossible not to like, because he's genuinely decent and good and well-intending. He's a little bit mischievous, a little bit. He has a few flaws, but they're not bad qualities per se. And he's just a real delight to write. He's thrust into this world as this innocent, headstrong character in a really turbulent environment where you can't afford to be innocent. And I think that's just going to I don't know. I really like the way that's going to impact the stories to come. But if I say too much more, I'm going to spoil that.
Right. We don't want you to spoil it. I do want to read a review that someone wrote, just so that our listeners can get an idea. One reader wrote, This book will keep you interested from the very first page. You will love it even if you do not like pirate fiction. The story is full of unexpected plot turns that will leave you guessing until the very end. More than anything, Swords and Sails is a rich human story of complex, lovable characters. You find yourself rooting for the hero, Edward, and even forming bonds with characters who seem evil. When you read Swords and Sails, you will inhabit a detailed, fully developed new world that will keep you laughing and thinking all at the same time. Swords and Sails is a truly special book, and we have the author of Swords and Sails right here, David McAvoy II. Now, is this like Harry Potter in that it's somewhat of a fantasy world that they're in?
Well, it is. It does have fantastic elements in it. I mean, there are sea monsters in it. There are. It's not saturated with magic to the extent that a wizard story would be, but there are magical elements in it. There's a character called the Sea Witch who I think a lot of fans would really like, and I think they're going to bond with over time because, like Edward, she's just impossible not to like. But, you read the description earlier of the commercial that we're running in some markets about where it says Harry Potter meets Pirates of the Caribbean. That and pretty much everything else that has been put in that commercial are based off the reviews we've been getting. I want to be clear. I set off to make this unique, but there's apparently a bunch of Harry Potter fans that really like this story. So, which is fine by me. I love the Harry Potter series. But it has that fantasy element. It is still a much more realistic world in many regards. It's actually set historically in the 1600s, in the time, the Buccaneer period. There are familiar countries and historical events and characters that are mentioned in passing in the novel. But there are a lot of places and a lot of features of the world of Swords and Sails that are no longer with us today. And if fans of the series or potential fans of the series want to know why those things aren't around anymore, well, they're just going to have to keep reading the books as I write them out.
So did you do all the research on the 1600s, or has that already been a period that you were interested in and you just had the knowledge of that era?
Well, I do like history. The 1600s were not a period that I was up to par with, really. When I sat down to write this book, it's not historical fiction. I'm not an expert in, that time period or anything. But I did sit down and, did some reading to make sure that I got some things right. And I put little historical tidbits in there just to kind of enrich the universe a bit. And also I have this thing. I do like to slip little bits, little facts, little bits of information, and that can be educational since this is a young adult book. But I want to do it in a way where it's just done in passing, where that's not the overall intent. Which is, as always, I think the best way is for kids to learn in some cases. But as I was doing this research, I did find a lot of interesting things that really influenced the novel. For a great example, when we think of pirates, we don't really think of women, but there were a lot of female pirates. And some of them were probably worse to mess with than the male pirates. And so I'd already had this idea that I was going to have a couple of female pirates in this story, and this gave me a historical basis to ground that in. Which was, it was a bit of a coincidence, but I'm really glad that coincidence was there. It helped me out a lot as the writing.
So how many female pirates are there? Are there a lot or just a few? Or?
Well, in the world of Swords and Sails, there's the first mate, Anne Lindsay, who has an interesting story of her own to tell, which is the subject of one of the chapters in the book. she's I wanted to make it clear she's never going to be a damsel in distress. Anne can hold her own in a fight. There's Kana, that's the Sea Witch character, who's not really a pirate, but she's definitely a very important character in this series. And then there's a character called the Crimson Pirate, who's considered the strongest pirate in the world. There's a great little moment in the book where they're in a pub in a pirate town. There's a fight breaking out, and then she walks in, and just the reaction from all the characters is just take a step back, give her space, and then let her do her thing. And she does not disappoint in living up to her reputation. I'm not going to say anything more than that on it. So, quite a few female characters. Those are the main ones, and there are several others that are involved as well, and will be more as time goes on.
Now, I know a lot of people who grew up reading Peter Pan and books like that, they think of pirates as somewhat of a fictional, mystical kind of person, but I mean, pirates are generally just kind of robbers or hoodlums of the sea. But I mean, are your pirates somewhat mystical or like a fantasy-like character also?
Well, yes, to some degree. Like I said, this is a fantasy story. And for the record, Peter Pan was probably my favorite story as a child, which might explain where this came from over time. But, there's another side, I think, even to historical pirates. A lot of people that were pirates in the real world, did so because there weren't any other options, or because they were trying to escape from, whatever their lives had been on land. Sure, many of them were murdering thugs, but there were quite a few that were, doing it to try and survive. In fact, pirates had democratic codes of government. While they were on the pirate ships, they had, codes of honor in some cases. There's, as always, there's a lot more to these people historically than what we generally think of. And with my pirates, I wanted to show that, that they're human. They're complicated. They have their flaws. Some of them are bad people, but they still have a few qualities that could be redeeming if they're allowed to express them, or if someone helps them come out. And, I think we're always fascinated with the villains of history. We like, I think that's the main appeal to pirates, because there's always this part of us that wants to be bad and, explore that side of ourselves safely. But at the same time, I think a lot of times the villains in our stories, sometimes they're not as bad as we make them out to be. And so I wanted to explore that with these characters as well.
Well, I know that's one thing some of the readers had said, that even the evil characters, you felt somewhat of a kinship or camaraderie with them. We're listening to David McAvoy II. He's the author of Swords and Sails. He's talking about his new book, which is available on Amazon. Again, that's Swords and Sails, The Legacy of the Red Lion. And you can also find out more by going to the actual website for the book, which is www.piratenovel.com. Mr. McAvoy, also I noticed that in the book, the main character, Edward Reynolds, is looking for a treasure that was left by his father. So there's somewhat of a family relationship in part of the story, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Sure. Edward's father was a pirate. Edward was abandoned by his father a long time ago, raised by his mother. His mother eventually passed away, and he was left with her relatives. So he never knew his father or anything really about him. He's left with this vague image in his head of when his father left them. But it turns out that his dad was a man who was called the Red Lion. because he had this big red beard, and he was very fierce and powerful, and everyone feared and respected him. When these pirates under Captain Wolfang come to abduct Edward, is when he starts learning about his father's history, because Wolfgang and his father were old rivals several years ago, and had fought a fierce battle before Edward was born. And this treasure that he's looking for has been rumored to have been left behind by his father. Everyone has been searching for it, and now Captain Wolfgang is gathering the clues to get to it. And according to the legends, this treasure is supposed to grant immortality to whoever finds it. So while Edward is in part on this journey to find out more about his father, and through that himself, which I think is always something very important in everyone's lives. It's always something, to know where you come from and to know who you are and who your family are. At the same time, he's trying to stop this man, Wolfgang, from getting the treasure and, to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. So it creates, it's an emotional story on a lot of levels. He wants to see this through to the end. He wants to find out where he comes from and what happened to his father. But at the same time, he knows that the further it goes, the closer Wolfgang comes to getting that treasure. And so there's a lot of mixed feelings in that regard when it comes to, should Edward continue on this journey, what should his next move be, and how far can he go?
Right. I just want to remind everyone that this is going to be a series, too. This is just the first book in the series, and the main character, Edward Reynolds, will be in the continuing series of books also, right?
Mm-hmm. He will.
Okay, well, Mr. McAvoy, I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
I assume is to go onto the piratenovel.com site or go on to Amazon.com. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to expand piratenovel.com at some point. Right now it takes you to the Amazon page where you can pick up the paperback or the Kindle version. It has the reviews, some of which you read from there. We actually have a beautiful hardback edition out now. So if anyone wants to pick up the hardback edition, I'd encourage them to do so. It's a wonderful, beautiful-looking book. And
where can the hardback be purchased?
It could be on Amazon or through the Mikazuki Publishing website. Just if you Google Mikazuki Publishing House,
right,
you can find it right there. So, but we're as I understand it, we're also going to have it available in other formats eventually. So those that like audio books, for instance, I know one of those is in the works. We'll probably have it on Nook and a few other things before it's all said and done with.
Well, that sounds really exciting, and we are going to have a link to the Pirate Novel website and the Facebook page where they can link to that and get it off of our page. I want to thank you very much, Mr. McAvoy, for being a guest on The Real Deal, and everyone looks forward to your next book in the series. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leigh Davis. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Again, that was David McAvoy II. He's the author of Swords and Sails, and he was just describing the first book in the series. It's actually the full title, Swords and Sails, The Legacy of the Red Lion, and it's available in Kindle editions and also paperback on Amazon, and you can get a hard copy that is available through the publisher, MikazukiPublishingHouse.com. I will spell it out. That's MikazukaPublishing Publishinghouse.com. And again, that's Swords and Sails, The Legacy of the Red Lion, and it is by David McAvoy II. And once again, if you did not hear the beginning, I'll give you the short description of it. Tired of zombies and vampires, imagine a world where Harry Potter meets Pirates of the Caribbean, get swords and sails, Legacy of the Red Lion, the new book by author David McAvoy. Sea monsters, daring rescues, and spectacular sword fights. If you love pirates and love adventure, then you will love Swords and Sails, Legacy of the Red Lion. And